Yeah. Yeah.
కొత్త ప్యాకెట్ చూసి ఇది మిల్క్ అనేది Mary started talking. My husband was asking something. Hopefully it's not recording.
Okay. It is recording, right, Jayashri?
Yeah, it started recording earlier. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So can we, Meena, would you like to start?
Yeah. Om Partaya Pratibodhitham Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaithamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashatyayini Ambatvam Anushantadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadvekshini.
Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netraha Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrutuduhe Namaha.
वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Thank you. So we started with the 13th chapter. Today we will be getting into the next phase, or I would say uh, another major area of what 13 chapters is trying to show. And this is like one of the most pertinent parts, I would say, of 13th chapter, and very much pertinent to all of us. This is something that I personally take a lot of pride in the sense It is a portion which we'll be talking about the 20 values, and something that in Balavihar we used to teach quite a bit. I guess when it comes to at that point, I will talk more about it. But in a sense, as we have been seeing last time, the 13th chapter pinpoints its teaching on the principles, uh, probably from a Sankhyan perspective, on the Purusha and Prakriti, which is consciousness, Purusha, and Prakriti, which is matter. Um, in a simplistic way, if you want to understand this, it is essentially nothing but the study of the relation between the subject and the object, or the seer and the seen, the world. So, consciousness, matter, Purusha, Prakriti, subject, object, seer, seen. So, we can take in any one of these ways if you want. So, what is this Purusha? The Purusha is essentially, you would say, the essence behind everything that is out here. In fact, it is nothing but that Purusha alone which is there. And it is this Purusha which identifies itself with, in a cosmic level, with everything, and in individual level with everything. And this uh, a cosmic level at this one, this knower itself we call is a subject, and the known is the object or the field. So this field of the operation of the consciousness is the whole of this objective phenomena, and that is what we call as the kshetra. If you remember the words kshetra and kshetrajna, we had used before. And this kshetra is the field of operation. It is the field in which we all are functioning in. And who is the operator? It is the kshetrajna. So the knower of this field is nothing but that Narayana himself, that Bhagwan himself. And that Atman is really the self which is there not only in the cosmic level, but in all of us. And it is actually that subject. So when we talk about Purusha or Prakriti or Kshetra, Kshetrajna, subject, object, all those terms, ultimately it is that Kshetrajna is just none other than the subject in me and you, and everything is the universal subject. So this is really what 13th chapter is getting into, where we are establishing the relationship between, the Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, if you want to think about those terminologies too. That connection is brought about in the 13th chapter, really. So the subject is the individual, uh, is the individual, or the conscious observer, or the sakshi of things in this um, vast conglomerate of the physical complex, which is where we left last week, where we started talking about that 24 tattvas, which we'll go into again, just start off at that point. So that is what I wanted to mention as a reflective part of it today, which is really about the connection between Kshetra and Kshetrajna, or the subject or the object, or the Purusha and the Prakriti, however, the known and the knower, or the seer and the seen. So all these things, in a sense, point out to understanding finally that Kshetra, or the field, includes this entire material universe, and Kshetrajna is the consciousness. So the whole creation, if you want to think about it, is nothing but this mixture of this consciousness principle and the matter, in a very simplistic sense. If you want to go deeper, then we can actually think about even more. But for now, if we have really understood even this much, that ultimately everything that you see in front of us, all this matter, is actually very inert. It is inanimate, if you want to say. But what is it that brings it to life is this consciousness principle in this. So that is what last time we talked about, the theory of everything. In the modern scientists, they claim that they're working on the theory of everything. But this theory of everything has already been worked out by our ancient rishis, you know. So Vedanta really has given the theory of everything, that everything is nothing but consciousness plus matter. So therefore, Krishna says, those scientists in shloka number 5, Rishibihi Geetam, all the rishis have already talked about it, and they have also mentioned about how this it's the matter which is in Vividai Chandobihi, all the Vedic mantras have already talked about this matter in various forms. So this is basically just to give you an idea of the reflection what I wanted to do for this Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And so Krishna's, has explained all this up to the verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm just going through it a little faster because we've already gone through it. And in shlokas, of course, this 4 is where, when Krishna is answering those questions, that if you're asking me what is this field, kshetra, that is what I'm saying. And the nature of it, of course, it is modified in so many different ways. And it is the part which is always changing. Okay. So the modifications are those 24 tattvas that we talked about last time. And what is the origin? Of course, the origin goes all the way to the original consciousness. And then he's asking in in shloka number in the find the question which is he's asking, so who is that jnani who knows a field? Now this is the part where we are really going to understand what are the qualities of those jnani, because it is ultimately when our mind, which is so cluttered with so many things, if that can be purified and clarified much better, then for us to this kind of a knowledge will be very much understandable. So this is the part that I've just wanted to emphasize in shloka number 4. And then, of course, shloka number 5 is where we talked about how this theory of everything, which we talk about today, which already in Vedanta was already well known by the ancient scientists, Rishibihi Bahuda Geetam, in various forms. They've always explained again and again and again so many different ways and in so many different shlokas. So we did all this. And last week we went into detail about how that kshetra is the one which is now divided into all these 24 tattvas. So tattva basically means part, it means you can say a category. And this categories, we at some point when we talk about the various darshanas or the philosophies which have emanated from India, you will see that there was some philosophies like Nyaya philosophy, will say that will categorize it into different ways. For example, Vaisheshika philosophy has categorized the whole creation into 7 tattvas. So Sankhya philosophy is the one which has categorized this into the 24 tattvas. And then Nyaya philosophy, for example, has divided that into 16 tattvas. And Sankhya, of course, is 24. Now, this part of it again depends upon various ways. We all also we tend to categorize things in different ways based on the origin of the philosophy, from where what the starting point for any philosophy is. That's how it is done. But Krishna has actually taken the Sankhya philosophy for us to bring it more into our purview itself. And a small portion of the 24 tattvas, we kind of saw it in chapter number 7, where where Krishna at that time, to make it simpler for Arjuna to understand, he actually broke this prakriti into two, which is para prakriti and apara prakriti. Paraprakriti meaning the highest knowledge, and apara being the lower nature. So again, Krishna is explaining about how his own nature is of the both the upper and the lower. So the lower part of the lower means not the lower in a physical form, but it basically means from a standpoint, the upper para prakriti is the pure knowledge. Apara prakriti is where the material side of who I am, for example, is in its fundamental essence, is basically all these five fundamental elements, which is Bhumi, Apaha, Analaha, Vayuhu, Kam, Manaha, Buddhi, etc. So we saw this as well. And so in the Kshetra, I just want to, whatever discussion we had last time, I want to explain it in an even simple form here. So in this Kshetra or the field, so but let me stop here for a second and ask, so far, is it pretty clear on what we have with the flow of thought that we have? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Harvam,
Anand.
yeah,
Yes.
one
Yes.
question. Like Purusha, is he considered as a Paramatma? And when you say Kshetrajna, is it considered as the Jivatma? Is that the way to
No,
understand?
no. So Purusha, Kshetrajna, they're all synonymous with each other. So you can think about Paramatma or Kshetrajna as, I'm sorry, Kshetrajna or Purusha as that Paramatma.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Meena, you're good?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I'm good.
So
Yeah.
good. So here we have, if you think about the various aspects of Ahankar, of the Kshetra or the field or the matter, which is Kshetra, here he's given, Mahabhutani, Ahankaraha, Buddhihi, Avyaktam. Then the 10 Indriyani Dasha, Ekam Cha, then Pancha Indriyas. So there is, if you add up all this, and we'll go through, how this is really added. So it starts with the Avyakta. So the word Avyakta is mentioned here. So what is Avyakta? Avyakta is essentially the very first, if you do, in organic chemistry, for example, we have a term called retrosynthetic analysis. Like, for example, if I keep going back and back and back, simple thing is what Shrikhand, if you take Shrikhand, I'm just using a simple example, Shrikhand, which is nothing but something which is made from yogurt or something which has been squeezed. I think. Where did the yogurt come from? It came from the milk. Where did milk come from? So that is what we say. Go if you go back, 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 back. Where did everything start from? So that is, it starts from this thing called Prakriti or Avyakta. Okay. Uh, in a simplistic form, not, what should I say, not taking the analogy too deep, but think about, when children, in the first, when they go, I think it's almost, I know we did this in Balavihar for our kindergartners. You take this Play-Doh, okay? Now, in this Play-Doh, which is this big mass of Play-Doh or this glue, there is no character to it, no form, nothing, right? So, that, if you will, think about is the Prakriti or Avyakta, okay? Again, I'm simplifying this really too much, but think about that is that Avyakta or Play-Doh now has a lot of potential, correct? A lot of potential from which many different forms and everything can be made. You can make a spoon, plate, all that. But that spoon, plate, everything came from that uh, mud or thing. So it is in a potential form. So that is the avyakta. Avyakta is in a potential form, and that is the prakriti part of it. So that is the stage one. And here, this one, it is almost in Sankhya philosophy, we call this as a beginningless stage. Ultimately, everything goes into that Prakriti, in Pralaya also. So, Prakriti is the basic thing. It will always be there. It is the one which gets converted. Yes, Geeta.
Can we call it as dormant? Dormant,
Yes, it can go into a dormant stage. Yes, can go to a
but it
dormant
is
stage.
not dormant stage. Stage one,
It is, yeah,
awake.
stage one. Yes, you can call it dormant in that sense. Yes, that everything is in a dormant stage. Like, for example, even when we go to sleep, right? Um, where does the world is actually all in our mind. When we go to sleep, everything goes dormant in that sense, yes. So, if you want to understand in scientific language, you could say it is a condition before the Big Bang. If you believe in this Big Bang theory or whatever, where did everything come from? It has to come from somewhere, right? And this is sometimes the biggest difference between Hindu philosophy and Buddhist, for example. We always believe that nothing can, in Buddhist says everything comes from nothing. But there is no such thing as nothing. There has to be something from which it came from. So here we have this Prakriti is the first thing. Now this then undergoes a kind of a partial evolution to give you what we call this as a Mahat Tattva. Okay. And here too, you can, so this Mahat Tattvam is the next stage. And from next stage, what we are saying is it leads to the stage called this Ahankaraha. Now, Ahankara here should not be confused with this ego, which we say, which is the individual ego. This, if you want, you can call this as a cosmic ego, or it is the name of the total matter. Okay, the total matter, it is, if you want to put let's say if you want to give an identity to every possible thing in this world, whether it is human you have, like they say, 8.4 million jivas, okay, living this, plus of course all the inert matter, stone, mountains, rivers, everything, we are giving them an identity. So if you put everything together, that the total identity, if you will, or the breakup of its individual constituents, is the stage of ahankara. Okay. Now, what is this ahankara? Okay, this ahankara can be broken essentially into, I know people may say, 8.4 million jivas plus everything. There's going to be billions and trillions of constituents, right? But those trillions of constituents, whatever it is, can be categorized into the 16 tattvas. Okay. Now, what are those 16 tattvas? Let's see what they are. Okay. So those, yeah, you are muted. You have to unmute, Geeta.
Oh, sorry. That in between Prakriti and Ahamkara, there is Mahatattva. What is that?
Tattva.
For example,
That is,
if you take the Play-Doh,
yes,
and then you
correct.
make a figure with it, can it be Mahatattva, and then giving life to it will become Ahamkara Tattva?
No, no, let's not take it life versus no life. You
Okay.
can think about like, okay, suppose there is an engineer who is going to create, he has, let's say, all this mud and cement and everything, he has kumchified everything, and now he's going to build a whole building from it. Now, before doing that, he has to put a design, a kind of a mental design of how that is going to look like. So, in that sense, you have something which is avyakta, which is completely its only potential. Then there is some kind of a design he's imagined. So, there's a little bit of an evolution on how he thinks a Mahatattvam is going to look like. Then there is this breakage of an individual. Then there's little more structure he's bringing it into it. And that is that part of this total identities brought together. And that is why it is called ahankara. Ahankara means something which now has an identity. Okay. So
Okay.
that is the total identity. So that is why we're calling that as a cosmic ego. Okay. Now, if you take that amount of identities, rather than looking at, if you look at it from a modern perspective on this theory of everything, we will actually keep breaking it down and down and down, which is what even today, if you look at the research that is happening in trying to find out what is the essence, at some point, what happened was Niels Bohr, for example, he discovered the atom. Then somebody came and said, no, 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 the atom is not the smallest of the particle. There is something else below that, which is all this electron, proton, neutrons, and all that. But then somebody else came and said, no, 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 that is not the lowest, quarks, correct? So in the modern world, we are more and more and more interested in going into more and more the fragmented pieces. Whereas in our Indian knowledge system, the way things, the rishis looked at it is they said, you know what? You can keep breaking down all this, and tomorrow they will take a stone and they will start analyzing what a stone is. Our rishis will say, why are you worried about all this? Let's just simplify it and look at it and categorize it into some 16 categories. Okay. Now, those 16 categories is where, which we have it out here, which is no matter in this cosmic level. So, what you have, one is the cosmic mind. So, the same words I'm using, and I'm just going this a little more detailed because I want us to, grasp some of these terminologies need not necessarily, because we might be stuck. Ahankara means individual ego, but no, here Ahankara means the total identities. The manaha, which is there, so this, I'm taking these terminologies and breaking it down. So we have manaha is this cosmic mind, and then we have five jnanendriyas. Again, jnanendriyas is those things which give the perception, the ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to, touch, those five panchendriyas. So that is the jnanendriyas. Karmendriyas are our hands, legs, gentle organs, all that. That is the five karmendriyas. And then we have those in the seven Bhumira Punalo Vayu, this, this earth, this five things which are there, that in its subtle form is the five Pancha Sukshma Bhutani. Okay. So you can actually break everything in this world into this 16 tattvas, and among the 16 tattvas, you have the inert matter and something which has life, right? So that which has, the gross matter, which we'll come to again. This Sukshma Bhutani again gets converted into this Stula Bhutani, which is the gross part of it. Okay. So we have 16 plus 5 of the Stula Bhutani gives you the total 24 tattvas. Okay. Now this 24 tattvas is what is the kshetram, or the field, or you might say, the prakriti. Again, now you have to be careful on how we use the word prakriti. The word prakriti here means the entire field. So this entire thing constitutes the matter. So that is the part that he's trying to tell us. Does that make sense now, what the 24 tattvas, and also to understand what Kshetram is really all about?
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Manaha, pancha, jnana, karma, and sukshma. 4, 4, 4, 4. I understand.
5, 5. 5, 5, 5, 15 plus 1 cosmic point 16. And
No,
then plus 5.
at the top you have put Pancha Shukshma Bhutani is Pancha Stula Bhutani.
No. Yeah, that is stage 4. So this is the stages of different stages of.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I
stage
got
1.
confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is stage 2. I forgot to put stage 2 is where Mahatattvam gets converted, can be,
Ahamkara.
yeah.
And then Ahamkara to 16 tattvas. And
Correct.
then after that you have that
Stage 4.
Pancha Stula Bhutani.
Correct. Pancha Sukshma, the 5 elements, which is earth, water, air, etc.
Correct.
They are actually in a subtle form, and from the subtle form they get converted into the gross form, which is finally what we are all able to see, hear, etc. So this is the part where most modern research, everything goes on in this stage. But prior to this, there are so many other stages which have already been conceived by our ancient rishis, is what I wanted to bring that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So one other thing to keep in mind is it is only in this area of Kshetram where there is a lot of the changing thing happens. So there's Vikari, that shloka number 5, where he talks about, how there is differentiation and everything. All that happens only in the area of Kshetram. And that is why he says, so this is the explanation of that question of Yat Vikari Yatascha Yat, that question that was raised in the fourth verse. So here Krishna is then explaining how that the various differentiation of the kshetram comes about. And instead of again worrying about the fact that we have trillions of differentiated things, they all can be broken up into only 16 categories, making it really simple for us. So it is this 24 tattvas that really constantly undergo change. And from this change, there is a lot of properties, various properties, gunas, all that comes about. And those generated properties, of course, into Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, all that we'll be discussing in the 14th chapter. Okay. But now in the seventh, shloka number 7, he starts to explain about you know, well, in some sense, before we get to the Sattva here, he's explaining what the properties of this 24 tattvas are. So he says, Ichha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sangat, Chetana, Dhritihi, Etat, Kshetram, Samasena, Savikara, Mudahritam. So we have the Sangatha, Sangatha, which is that composition of the 24 tattvas, the body aggregate. So this it consists all of this 24 tattvas, and that is the one whole item he's describing, and the remaining six, which he says, Ichha, Dukkham, etc., is what they actually is what the individual, the whole is given actually, this sanghata is the jiva or the individual which goes through this ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham, and chetna. So we will break this up into each one and we'll try to understand what they are. Okay. Um, so what is ichha and dvesha? Ichha and dvesha is basically the desire which comes, and ichha is the desire, right? In each what a jiva goes through. And dvesha is basically, either you like something or you dislike something. When you encounter any object. So this happens in the mind. So this basically, whenever you see any object, there is either, these are the only major kind of thing which immediately comes to our mind. So again, one may say, oh, that's not true. I have so many emotions, and we are categorizing more and more of emotions based on today, if you think about it in today's world. For example, uh, only yesterday in one of my PhD, I'm a kind of a guide for one of the PhD theses, and in that there was a terminology with it, scrupulosity, scrupulosity or something. It's a new term that is coming out basically, and FOMO. Okay, FOMO, for example. One may say that, okay, I have a FOMO when I see an object, not that we will say that way, but the point about it is in all kinds of emotions ultimately will fall under either I like something or I dislike something, you know. For example, we may say, I'm so excited. I think this is awesome. We use all these terminologies, but ultimately it is only ichha and dvesha. When I'm encountering an object, when I have a relationship, all this. Now, what does that do to the mind? One is, as soon as I see it, this is what happens. But the effect is I actually, one second, just 1 second. I have to open the door. Sorry, somebody was at the door. So now we have what are the effect of it is it leads to either joy or sorrow. Okay. And we'll try to understand what Chetana means. Chetana is actually, it is the awareness because of which I experience all this. Okay. And we'll try to understand that in its true sense. And Dhriti, on the other hand, um, is the ability for a certain thought to be um, to experience its fruition, So we will understand this also in a little more idea here. So this word Chetana has to be understood in its proper sense. So for example, we know that this body is all matter. That we are convinced, correct? We know it is solid, we know it is changing, all that. But if I tell you that even the mind is nothing but matter, but in a subtle sense, it is a little hard for us to understand that because if mind is also matter, why am I not able to see it? Why can't I really put it under a microscope or anything and see it? So, mind is actually a very subtle form of matter, and mind actually has the ability to reflect the consciousness. Okay. So, when we say everything is consciousness, for example, let's say electricity itself. Okay. Uh, we know that the effect of electricity is seen when it passes through a certain wire, and we see the effect of it in the form of light, we see it in the form of energy, all that. But electricity is very much there. It needs a wire through which it can function, correct? So too for us, when we say consciousness is everywhere, we are not able to feel it at all because there should be a medium through which that consciousness is really reflecting. Okay. So mind is that surface through which the consciousness gets reflected and which provides the I mean, any of the English words doesn't make sense. Like, for example, I cannot say it provides energy. I cannot say it provides the consciousness. Maybe we can say that it is mind is the surface because of which the consciousness makes us conscious. Okay. Maybe that would be a better way to say it. So it has the ability to absorb the consciousness principle, and the reflected consciousness is what we call as Chetanaha. Okay. So that reflected consciousness due to which all our body functions, everything happens, is that Chetana or awareness principle.
Can I ask you a question? Is it
Yeah.
all one way or it can be the other way too?
No. So let's say the sun. Okay. The sun is suppose I remember my uncle used to do this experiment when we were young. He used to use right at 12 o'clock, the sun is shining on the mirror, and then with that energy he could make the paper burn.
Right.
Now, do we say it goes the other way around?
It won't.
No.
It won't.
No.
Right.
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 So think about it that way, that this entire world is consciousness, but for that consciousness to have its effect on any one of us, we need a medium, and that medium is this mind.
Okay. Got
Okay.
it. Got it.
And because of that medium of the mind, the various um, various functions in our body, which is a prana shakti, everything. It comes to life, and because of that life, the entire body functions. Okay, so that is
It's
really
always
the
one way,
fundamental.
always only
It
one
is
way.
always one way, of course. Yes.
Okay.
Is everyone clear with this? Because these are some very important concepts that are coming out from this chapter, and each one of these words are very potent, very powerful, needs to be understood in its own essence. Yeah? Okay. Now, what is Sanghata Chetanaha? Okay, Sanghata Chetana is this whole body-mind complex. Okay, so the entire body is now functioning with this consciousness, reflected consciousness in every part of the body. So this is, if we think about our individual body now, you take it to the entire world and all the species and everything. That is that entire Sanghata Chetanaha, in every part of it, it is that consciousness which is reflected through the mind, and through the mind, everything comes to life. So now you can even think about the fact that, why does a stone doesn't have any life? Because stone doesn't have a mind. Okay, as simple as that. Everything, whatever has a mind, where this is reflected, it gives. Then the next step is that it fuels the processes, and because of those processes, everything happens. And again, something to remember, this is all again part of the kshetram. Okay, so kshetrajna is the one which is now reflected in the medium of the mind, and in that medium of the mind, which is part of kshetram. And that is why I wanted to explain the 24 tattvas, because mind is part of the 24 tattvas. And so Krishna says, Sanghata Chetanaha, the borrowed consciousness, which is again part of Kshetram, and through that, we're able to experience this entire world. And the moment we become, this moment we experience the world, what happens? This Ichcha Dvesha happens. We experience either we like something or we dislike something. I develop an attachment for something, so that everything it starts originally from the mind. Okay, so how did the mind start working? The mind started working because it borrowed the consciousness and it started reflecting it. And from that, again, we are not going into vasanas and all that, because again, vasanas plays a part also in us either liking something or disliking something. But that is how the Ichcha Dvesha happens. And from Ichcha Dvesha happens where once we divide the world into something what I like and I don't like, then immediately the emotion that I get out of it is either joy or sorrow. Again, we're breaking all the kind of emotions into only these two categories, sukham and dukkham, desirable, undesirable. So we, through our vasanas, each sanghataha, because of their vasanas, they color everything world. And ultimately, it's not as if, the world does not have any capacity to give joy or sorrow. It is every individual, because of this. So we tend to classify the world as, okay, this, some parts of it is giving me joy, some part is giving me this one. But that is not true. It is only we ourselves. We are the ones who develop that sukham or dukkham. So then dhriti is what? Dhriti means the willpower. Okay. We use a willpower to acquire whatever the so-called object of joy, like pravritti, nivritti, we also use those terminologies, something which we like, something which we don't like. So dhriti is that willpower by which we work through things. So this is why this shloka is very much, sort of complete in terms of how he's trying to say, yeah.
How is Driti connected to mind? Mind.
Mind is the consciousness part of, right? It's just
Correct,
a
correct,
medium by which
correct.
reflected. But
And
what is it? what is the force? You can say call Dhriti as the force due to which you tend to go towards, it's the willpower because of which you run after certain objects. Think about it that way. It is the force which is making you go towards objects or not. Now, the question of why do you go to certain objects, this one is the vasanas. Now, this we are not talking about the vasanas in here. They're talking about the basic components of, I don't know, the more and more, even when I speak, I'm just seeing how beautiful the whole, just in one shloka. Let me bring that shloka here. In one particular shloka, the entire, um, what should I
Whole
say? What
lifespan,
is
whole
life is given, so there is, what are we experiencing? We experience joy and sorrow. Where does it come from? It comes from either I like something or I don't dislike something. But there should be some, I want to maybe use, maybe Anand can help me out with this, is, taking the car analogy, it is the thrust, if you will. So Dhriti is like the thrust, where what do you call that? In a,
accelerator.
or no, in a manual, accelerator is a manual car, manual cars.
Stick shift? Is it
In a
the
stick shift,
Gear,
no, no,
gear.
Gear.
gear?
not the gears. Maybe it's the power, we can say, the power by which we go to any of this, um, objects. So that you could call as dhriti, dhriti in that sense. I know here dhriti, he says fortitude. Or in the next one, we said, it's the firm adherence to a vritti in a mind which takes it to execution, basically. See, I mean, you see an object, you either like, you
Is that the
dislike.
clutch? Are you talking about
The
clutch?
clutch. Yeah, I
Yes.
know. The clutch is what I was
Mm,
thinking of.
mm,
But actually,
mm.
it's not the clutch. In this case, it is the accelerator. It's
Okay.
the power behind me wanting something or not wanting something. That is what he's talking about. Is the, the this. But the word fortitude probably dhriti as such, which we'll come across when we do the 20 values. He will talk about this as fortitude.
Hari
But
Om.
here, yes,
One quick question. So can you give us simple example of Chetana and Shankata Chetana? Just a simple thing.
Sangata Chetana. Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
So that simple example, as I gave earlier when Gita asked this question on can it be the reverse way, like the sun, right? So
Yeah.
the sunlight is everywhere, correct?
Yes.
But if you want to concentrate the light of the sun and direct it to a certain thing, what you would do is you would use a mirror
Mm.
to focus the thing and direct it somewhere else. Correct? You
Okay.
would use the mirror.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that is what, so imagine Chaitanya as that reflected light. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Mm.
The original sunlight, once it goes into the mirror and then helps you to do something,
Mm.
is the reflected sunlight. Correct?
Okay. Yes.
So
That mirror
Chaitanya is
can
that.
be called, so the mirror can be called a mind.
Yes, correct.
Mm.
The mirror is the analogy for the mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I understood.
These are
Okay.
very powerful concepts. See, we
Yes.
have to really understand, if you look at it from that Indian knowledge systems, how it has developed,
Mhm.
these are all pure, very scientific, very
Yes.
scientific.
So
Now,
it
can
is
we prove?
Chetana and Shankata Chetana, right?
No, so Sanghata basically means the whole complex, the entire 24 tattvas.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the whole 24 tattvas in just the in an individual sense, in our let's take the individual physical body, right? If I take the individual physical body, you have all the 24 tattvas actually.
Mm. Mhm.
Now, how am I powering this body? How is this body really working?
Conscious.
The body is working because of the reflected consciousness
Mm.
okay, which is reflect. So consciousness is everywhere. That is why I gave that example of electricity. Okay.
Okay.
Just like electricity is everywhere, but in order for it to use it for what you want, what do? You actually channel it through this tungsten wire or whatever, and then make it use it for variety of purposes. So too, consciousness is everywhere, but consciousness by itself cannot do anything. It has to get reflected in a medium, and that medium is the mind. And now you have to understand the mind again differently. Now we always say, oh, mind is cluttered, mind is this. Let's take all that out. Take mind as only a medium where that consciousness, which is everywhere, is reflected, and that reflected consciousness then powers the various pranamaya kosha, the various processes, which is the prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, all those energy processes, and gives that aspect of life in the body. So Chetana is that reflected consciousness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Now I understood. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for next time, I'll just very quickly put a small diagram together, which will, I probably have that in one of my previous PowerPoints long time back. I'll take that and I will see how we can do it. Okay. Okay. So Sanghata means the whole complex. Chetana means that awareness in the complex. Okay. So Icha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Dhriti, we did that. So with this shloka, shloka number 7, essentially the kind of main teaching is over. Okay. The combination of Kshetra, Kshetrajna, how does Kshetram really function? All that is done. Okay. Now we are coming to a very, like I said, the qualities that is required in us in order for us to, I mean, so far it's very theoretical, okay? But how do I put this theory into practice? It sounds great to learn about what is Chetana, what is Dhriti, what is Sanghata, all these 24 tattvas. But how can I now shift my mind completely? That mind, that Sunitha who is working in the material world all the time, thinking the only thing which gives her joy and sorrow is, more material things, more, what should I say, satisfaction from relationships, more satisfaction from situations around. How do I now turn this mind completely to thinking that that happiness that I'm getting out of all these objects and everything is not in the outside, but it is within me, that part of it, because, and also to understand this relationship of this Kshetram, Kshetrajna, and this Purusha Prakriti, all this, how do I understand that very well? That part of it is where 13th chapter now shifts our attention to what do I need to do within myself to clean up my mind to stay in this knowledge. Okay. So this part is actually called jnanam. The whole part is called jnanam, the knowledge. But again, we have to understand this word knowledge, the jnanam, not necessarily as pure knowledge. It is the means, or the qualities that is required for us in order to understand that uh, ultimate consciousness. For example, even now, suppose I say that, we all are nothing but, we always say this, okay, I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, we say, I am Brahman. What is Brahman? Brahman is nothing but consciousness. And where is consciousness? Consciousness is everywhere. It sounds very, very theoretical. How do I make this knowledge very important? And why is it important for us? Because if I understand that I am that consciousness, and everybody is at consciousness, where is the problem?
So in that case, mind doesn't play a role. It is directly connected to consciousness. Jnanam.
So, no, so let's take that aspect, right? So, let's tie it to that, we are saying it is that mind where consciousness is reflected and which is powering everything.
Correct.
Okay, great. But the purity of the mind is very, very important. If this mind is dirty, again, using that same example of the mirror, if the mirror is very dirty, then what happens is whatever reflection happens is also dirty, right? So that mind has to be very, very clean, just like the mirror has to be totally clean. So what are those various scrubbers I can use to clean this mind? Okay, that is what this 20 qualities is all about. The various things that will clean this mind, because
But
of
you
which
said it's always one way from consciousness to mind, mind to other stuff. But now
correct.
you're talking the reverse.
No, we are not talking the reverse. We are not.
How will
Or
mind be clear? Because it's
how
straight from consciousness, the mind is their next step, right? Why would it
correct.
get dirty?
That is because again of the individual, right? So
Vasana.
now we are talking at the individual level. Now
Oh,
we are not talking at the cosmic level.
okay.
So that is why here this question number 5, which is in the question in Shloka 4, who is he, the jnani who knows the field? The word jnani is important because we are trying to understand a jnani is a jnani only because he has an absolutely clear mind. That clarity of mind can come only when it does not have any of the blemishes which tend to pollute our own minds. So we would not call ourselves a jnani because we know we have a lot of blemishes. And this next section is very, very powerful. It really exposes us to the blemishes, which we won't even think that we have it. So it is really a mirror for us in that sense. Now I'm using the word mirror itself in a different sense. The next 20 values will show the mirror to us as to, hey, do you have this particular quality? Okay, now you're not a jnani. So what do you need to do? So it is a sadhana, the next 20 qualities is just so beautiful. Um, I I really thought we could do at least one of them, which is amanitvam. So there are 20 such qualities which we can each one of us work on it as a sadhana. Literally, we can cleanse our mind and become pure and become, what should I say?
So now, aren't you talking backwards? How
How
do we
so?
cleanse the mind? Because we have to behave nicely for us to cleanse the mind, right?
We have to behave nicely for the consciousness to shine uh, fully in our mind. See, mind is the only medium by which we can power this. It's a simple thing like, for example, if I have a 10-year-old Honda and if my whatever mechanism by which I'm trying to power the car is not clean, then whatever I do, the car is not going to give me the service I need, right? So I need to maintain that car in a very good condition. So what are all the things that can make this car not work? That is where we are. We are at the moment a jiva who have so much amount of vasanas and everything which need to be cleaned up before I can say that I'm ready for moksha, my final evolution. So what are those blockages? What are the blockages in my mind which is preventing me from acting like a jnani in the world?
So blockages in the mind, how does that happen?
That is a different question altogether. That's a different process. How
Due
did
to
it happen?
vasanas?
Yes, it is the vasanas, it is the blemishes. Vasanas are nothing but the dirt because of which, vasanas are the dirt or the blockages because of which I'm not able to function well. How did that happen is a different mechanism.
Okay, okay.
But here we are talking about uh, keeping in line the 13th chapter, which is trying to tell us the relationship between Kshetram, which is a material world, Kshetrajna, or the consciousness. How are these two connected? And how can we understand that connection better is only when we know the blockages which are preventing that understanding. So those blockages can be removed if we practice this 20 values.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Lord Krishna is trying to say, I'm giving you all these 20 qualities that you can follow in order for you to cleanse your mind.
correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is why it is really, really powerful. And I guess in some ways, Krishna has decided that um, January 1st is the better time when we can
I
make
was
this
about to tell
resolution.
you. I was about to tell you that. Okay.
So let's start practicing the 20 values from then. Until then,
At least
Krishna
we
is
can
saying that,
start with
okay,
2 or 3. To start with,
okay.
we can start with 2 or 3, maybe 1 at least.
Even the first one, I'm telling you, in fact, the last 1 week I've been preparing for this lecture and I was enjoying it so much. I had put so much of effort into really first to understand what is Jnanam and then tell you what those 20 values which we are going to be doing. So the very first one, look at this, it is absence of conceit or
Mm,
humility. Okay, that is the very
mm,
first thing.
mm,
So, we'll be really talking about what is this humility? Why should we really have humility? Why can't we really praise ourselves, Uh, and what is, so we will really go through all this very, very, very powerful things. This is one of my most favorite part of Bhagavad Gita, actually.
You
Well,
spent a
Um,
lot of time,
I
Sunitha. You
did.
spent
I
too
know,
much of
I
yeah.
know. So
Oh my
sweet.
God, it's very good. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, no. These are all these values just from the very first shloka. So there are five
Mm.
shlokas in which 20 values have been listed. But I
But
think
no, for us to understand this stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 itself, it took a
So much
lot of
time.
time because that is very, very, very powerful. And I mean, it was
Exactly.
hard for us to get into our mind.
yes, but that is that first part of 13th chapter. Now we
Mhm.
are coming to the
Yeah, 8 to 12.
thing
Okay.
8 to 12. 8 to 12 is about the qualities
Of
which
Jnani.
is the most practical part of 13th chapter, which each one of
Mm.
these qualities, if we can practice it every day. I mean, I remember when we did this in our study group also, I put an Excel sheet together and I said, okay, every day let's put a check on did I practice Amanitvam? Did I practice Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshanti, And we will be reading this in a much more deeper way, really deep, what the word humility means, what the word adhambitvam, all this, that is why I wanted to, in this, um, you know, the opposite of humility is where,
This is a very good one. There are always people greater than me.
yes, no, these are reasons for us to, and how this self-admiration is an addiction. We
Mhm.
don't realize that. And I really wanted to bring in some social media examples and everything
Mm.
because today we thrive on that. We really, every like or thing on social media, and which is probably why, now Australia has put a ban on social media
Yes,
on below 16-year-old, below
yes.
16. I
Yeah.
think it is because they want them to practice amanitvam, you know, really. They're finding this addiction. Addiction is a very strong word, which we tend to use it only for drugs and alcohol and all that.
Yes,
But at the
but it is
mind
not.
level, addiction starts at the mind level. And so that is one of the blockages we have to remove. you know.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's going to be very beautiful starting January 1st. I'm looking forward to it also, because the more and more we discuss this and understand it, when we understand it, trust me, you don't need to practice it. If we understand it well itself, that blockage is gone. You know, we can use a journal to monitor the progress we've made, but in understanding itself, it'll be.
And it is very hard for you to teach us, it's very difficult for us to make us understand. It's not easy. It's not easy. You did a great job.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity, because I really feel
No,
it's
seriously,
just,
it's not that easy to understand. It's
I know,
definitely not.
it's very complex. Yes. And you made it simple.
thank you. Thank you. So
That's
we
why
will
I
see.
always ask you for a simple example. So, only if we give a simple example, we'll try to catch it. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you did a lot of work. Thank you so much.
Lot of effort she has
No,
taken. I can.
no, I mean, like I said, it's I'm helping myself also. The more when you bring the question, it makes me think also, and makes me make sure that I have understood it well. Because if I don't understand it, how can I teach, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation, Sunitha ji.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Anant.
I still have one
So,
question again. Is
yes,
recording
please.
going on, or you have shut it off?
No, I can stop the record. I'll finish the class. We'll stop the recording, and then if you can, yeah. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you to everyone. Wishing you happy holidays and a very happy new year. And I think we will meet back on, let's see, can we meet back on, no, 31st is Wednesday actually. So we won't have class on 24th or 31st. We will probably meet back on the 7th, then January 7th. Is that okay? Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so
You're
much. Hari
welcome.
Om.
Hari Om.
Hari
Thank you,
Om.
Sunitha ji.
You're
You
welcome, and
said
stop the live stream.
the one way. Oh, yeah.